I've noticed that Germany's under-21s have got a new poster boy up front. He scores, he's very, very tall. What did the Liverpool fans used to sing about Peter Crouch in the old days, about him sleeping in bed and his feet sticking out the bottom? So what can you tell us about Stuttgart Nick Woltemade?
Well, he's had a great summer. After a very, very good first season at Stuttgart, scorer of 6 goals in the Euro under-21s, and one of those players, I guess, a little bit like Harvey Elliott in this tournament, where you think, yeah, he's too good for this level. And it felt like he was an adult playing with children for a lot of that. But really, it's just building on the excitement that was already there for him in a first season at Stuttgart, where I think that they were satisfied when they signed him last summer. Now, bear in mind, just over a year ago, he was a guy who had signed for Stuttgart having not been able to get in the Werder Bremen team. So this is an absolutely astronomical rise, helped out by the fact that obviously Sergio Guirassy left Stuttgart last summer. The fact that Denis Undav was injured for chunks of the season, all of which gave Woltemade a bit of a leg up and involved him in the first team more. But he was ready to deal with it. Look, it's been clear for years that he's got talent, but now he's managed to put it all together in a first team context. Now, I think people look at him and expect one thing because he's 6'6" and he's big and difficult for defenders to deal with. But to me, the things about him is his movement, his ability to link play, his finishing as well, which has been excellent so far this season. And so all of a sudden, you have this guy who Stuttgart feel, oh, yeah, we've got ourselves a nice little deal here. So all of a sudden, all the big clubs in Europe are interested in him because a lot of big clubs would like that big guy to play up front, even if he's not just a target man. There's a lot more to him than that. And there's not a lot of that sort of player about. So not only is he a little bit atypical, but that sort of profile of big striker is not really about that much. So there's interest from Napoli, there's interest from Real Madrid of varying degrees. But Bayern sort of double down and think, okay, this is the guy that we want to go to. Now, I know what you're thinking straight away. Who would want to go to Bayern and back up Harry Kane? The answer, Nick Woltemade. Now, part of that, I think, is the fact that Kane and Bayern has been a lovely relationship. There's always been the sense that it's not going to go on forever. So I think you're maybe talking about perhaps a year of handover between the two of them. And of course, to have someone that maybe enables you to keep Kane a little bit fresher, leave him out a little bit more if you need to. Now, obviously, he's not in favour of this, but the whole point of him leaving Tottenham is he can't turn around and go to Mauricio Pochettino. Right, I'm going to play now. I think he's needed someone else. And we saw that with the way that Thomas Tuchel dealt with Kane in the first year, particularly. That sense of having someone who's maybe not your best mate, but knows what's best for you and is not afraid to make you do what's best for you. So, and the fact that he's a different profile of attacker to Kane. I mean, he's a very good linker of play. Of course, he's not got the passing range of Kane, but he is a lot bigger. I think the idea that he can learn off Kane over the next year, that's something that would presumably appeal to him as well, which would be, the I guess, ultimate finishing school. This would be him going to the Dagobah system, basically, and learning the last bit, so he becomes the full deal. The problem is, at the moment, is that Stuttgart are asking for 100 million euros for him, which I know we're talking about the Randall Kolo Muani markup that was achieved at Eintracht Frankfurt, but it feels like a lot. So Max Eberl, the sporting director of Bayern, has come back from the World Cup to try and get a few deals on the rails. Woltemade wants to go. It seems that Bayern and Woltemade have agreed what the outlines of a contract would look like. But at the moment, Stuttgart are not budging. But does it feel inevitable to you, Nicky?
It feels like it's the way that it can end that makes everyone, I was going to say the happiest, but maybe just the least unhappy is it all, by the way. Because I saw as well, there was I'm getting this translated from a third party, so I hope it's been translated accurately, but I saw there's been an editorial as well from Kicker magazine's Timo Müller, basically having a go at Woltemade for saying to Stuttgart, if I'm staying here, you need to double my salary, and accusing him of losing touch with reality.
But even if he did double his salary, it wouldn't be anywhere near what he got at Bayern.
Yeah. And I think that it feels to me like a bit of an unfair thing to say to a young player, that you're losing touch with reality when you're asking your club to double your salary. At the same time, your club is saying, well, he's worth 100 million euros.
Yes,
maybe he's worth a bit more money than if you're saying he's worth 100 million euros. I don't know. I think it's a slightly. It feels to me, without wanting to do him down, it feels to me like one of those slightly dangerous transfers where everyone's getting very excited in the summer, and are we possibly taking a step too far ahead of ourselves when we start putting him again in this category of 100 million euro players? Wouldn't be the first time that a young forward has been priced in that bracket, and then we realise actually maybe that was a bit much and a bit soon for that player. But this is also a reflection, as you've been saying, Andy, of the market. It's really hard to find good number nines, and especially good young number nines, so you can have working behind Harry Kane and developing into something, and especially, again, ones who are atypically tall and can provide a threat that teams aren't used to dealing with. That is a rare commodity, and that adds to the value as well.
I think the sense is he's actually good enough on the ball that you could even play him off Kane, which I think is quite interesting. If you could have them like swapping, and remember Thomas Müller's going as well, so I think that's quite an interesting prospect.
With all of those caveats, though, the caveats about the market and how you can play him, how much is he worth? If not 100 million, how much is he worth?
Well, look, looking at it from a neutral perspective, I accept like people saying he's a unicorn, there aren't many players like this, all the rest of it. It still feels as if it's quite early in his career, and it's to me very indicative of the fact that clubs, because they have eyes so much on PSR, FFP, whatever your league's equivalent of that is, people don't want to mortgage the future in buying a win now superstar, really. I feel that most clubs would rather buy a young guy with big upside who's going to retain value rather than spend it on a 28-year-old who's going to do it all for you now. And
Yes.
I think, to me, Woltemade is very indicative of that. He's a very, this market, this environment, the way clubs think about things now sort of signing. Because
So
like I said,
worth?
well, realistically, I think if Stuttgart were to get between 50 and 60 million for them, they signed him for free last year, they should take it. And they're so good at selling players and regenerating. They've got a coach in Sebastian Hoeneß who's really good at rolling with the punches and losing big players and finding a way to replace them. But no one imagined this for Woltemade last year. I think if you're them, you look at the amount of money on the table, you back your coach, who they've given another contract extension. They know Hoeneß is the most important person in the building. He definitely is. And you back him to shape someone else. They've still got Undav. They've still got other good players. And you look back to last summer when they lost their two best players. They lost Anton, they lost Guirassy to Dortmund. Okay, they had a bit of a drop-off, but that was really because they qualified for the Champions League rather than everything else. You go back to the year that they actually did qualify for the Champions League, and they lost a load of big players at the start of that season. They lost Endo, they lost Mavropanos, who may not be great in the Premier League, but was really important for them. And they managed to just get on with it. And this is what Stuttgart do. So obviously they're trying to get the maximum out of this situation, but they know he's not worth 100 million. And if they end up with like not even 2/3 of that, I think they've got to be happy, surely.
This is a player that's turned down Chelsea. He's turned down Napoli, Nicky. He's living the dream, isn't he? And they're talking about 100 million. It doesn't get better than that.
Well, I think he's clearly looked at the situation at Bayern and thought to himself, first of all, a spot you go where you just know every year you're going to be playing in a very competitive team that's trying to win trophies, but also actually for all the reasons we've just been saying about it could be a good fit behind Harry Kane. Well, that's good for him too, right? Learn a bit from Harry Kane, get some game time, possibly play a bit with him, and then Harry Kane's not getting any younger. You'll get your chance to be the guy quite soon.